And with that, we are live. What's happening, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix, and it is the Astro Weather for the 6th of June, aka 6/6. Man, I got morning vision today. I got to tell you, a little morning vision going on. How was everyone? Did you get through the weekend? I think it was a pretty good weekend, actually. I'm a big fan of the Sag Moon. Sag Moon is fun. It's adventurous. Well, let us tarry no longer. Let us waste no more of your precious time, and let's get into the Astro Weather. Astro. All right. And we're off. Boom. I got the right day. Oh, yeah, I got the right day. So it was good to have the right day when you do the Astro Weather. Because there have been days when I haven't always had the right day, but today is a good day because it is the right day. And there we go. All right. So what's cooking? Well, there's our sun in Gemini at 15. Now, this is an interesting degree for the sun because it's coming right up on Juno. So in 5 days, we'll have a Sun-Juno conjunction. And Juno is in Gemini, and it is the month of June, right? So this is Juno's month. And Juno is all about new beginnings, even though we're rapidly approaching summer. It's crazy here up in the Northern Hemisphere. But I would say this conjunction does bode well for new beginnings. And if you're looking to launch something new, put 5 days ahead on your calendar. Now, Juno moves fairly slow, so it won't be an exact conjunction. It might be, 22, 21, right? 22, 22, but the sun will catch up. But put 5 days on your calendar because the sun is approaching Juno. You want that approach energy, right? So if you've got a new project you want to launch, you've got a new venture, you want to put some sweat equity into, this is a really good time. Right now, the sun is still in square with Saturn, but again, it's coming off the square. We're about 8 degrees out, so that square, the tension around the Sun-Saturn square should have abated by now. And with the square, the early tension gets your attention. Right? It gets your attention, and then you make adjustments. And then as the planet or the luminary begins to move away from the square, you should be able to have addressed the square, adapted to the square, and then build on the square, right? This is how the progression or the transit of one luminary or body like the sun here with Saturn would evolve, right? This is how it would evolve. So at this point, you're probably improving or working on something to get it better, to make it better. This is all the dynamic of Saturn, right? So again, with the idea of starting something new, you're kind of putting, hopefully, the finishing touches on the new thing, whatever the new thing is. Now, we do have an inconjunct today with the sun and the moon. And to me, this inconjunct feels a lot like, and I just talked about getting things done, right? That transit or that square will be ongoing over the next couple of days. By tomorrow, the inconjunct the moon will have moved out of the inconjunct position. So it's a different dynamic altogether. But we're talking about Saturn, which is the ruler of Capricorn. And thus we have this interesting connection with the moon. Now, I will say this, that if you feel like you're not far enough along on something, don't stress out about it, okay? Because that's the inconjunct. There's the emotional weight and gravity of the moon here. And this kind of playful, when we deal with the sun in Gemini, again, Northern Hemisphere, it's spring. It's a fresh season. It is a fresh sign, right? And we have the inconjunct with the moon in Capricorn. Capricorn is not a fresh sign, it's an old sign. So there's this strange kind of connection, or at times even disconnection, between being in the moment and kind of playing and kind of having fun and looking forward to new things. And then the moon in Capricorn is the responsibilities, like your mother. And that's the inconjunct, right? It's kind of like, okay, well, how can I build towards something new? How can I enjoy this? How can I make improvements on the thing that I'm working towards and building something new with, and at the same time, deal with my responsibilities that are kind of lingering over here. And it may feel like a burden at times, but you know what? There's enough planetary motion right now so that you can tap into this Capricorn moon. There's lessons here, right? There's lessons here. And the lesson is to not leave certain people behind or not leave certain things behind. Pay attention. Just don't toss something out because it appears to be old or not usable, right? That to me, this is the kind of the early day indicator of the inconjunct. So if there's somebody around you who might be older, you may want to listen to them and hear what they have to say or how they feel, since we're talking about the moon. We do have a nice sextile with the sun and Mars, right? So the energy is fast. There's fast energy today, even with the Saturn square, which makes you pump the brakes every now and then, just to make sure you're headed in the right direction, or you're doing what you theoretically need to do. Speaking of direction, I just bought a bunch of maps from Rand McNally, maps of every state in one of those bound things. I got one of those. You know why? Because I don't want to have to depend on GPS anymore. I want to look at those roads, those old roads, see where they lead. Pattern recognition. We've got Pallas here in Leo. Mars is catching up. We've had the moon, Black Moon Lilith in Leo for a while now. And I think it's interesting in terms of sort of the garish theatricality of like Pride Month. And it's also quite interesting where Elon Musk, who has his Mars in the opposite sign of Leo in Aquarius, gave time for Matt Walsh's What is a Woman video on Twitter. Kind of mind-blowing, actually, for that to be played on Twitter. I mean, just think about that. That would never have happened a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Whatever you think of Elon Musk, that's an interesting development in a lot of ways. And I think this Black Moon Lilith in Leo has something to do with it. And it feels to me like we're seeing the dark side of this kind of domineering consciousness and the shadow of what is a woman, right? Because that's what Black Moon Lilith is all about, right? It's the shadow. And in Leo, of course, it's ostentatious. It is the clown, the garish clown makeup in a lot of ways of the drag queen army. And this is something that's been going on for months now. And so here we have this kind of concrescent moment that's ahead of us. Venus has moved into Leo. So we have a Venus-Mars conjunction. It's coming. It's not quite there. Well, it's there kind of loosely, 9 degrees. And Venus moves a little bit faster than Mars. So again, we're kind of getting into the trenches here around the masculine and the feminine. And don't sleep on Pallas here to understand the patterns between the two and what's going on a quote unquote cultural level, if you call our culture. We have Venus in square with Jupiter, Mars in square with Jupiter as well. And to me, those are appetites unsatiated. That people want more. It's an interesting time because on the one hand, the world isn't really offering a lot, right? Like if you were at a buffet, it would be about a really good buffet, not a golden buffet. Let's say a really good, like back in Vegas, back in the day buffet. If you were never in Vegas, say in the 80s, when the mob ruled Vegas and they had these buffets, they were amazing. Now they charge for everything. Back then, you would just stay at the hotel and minimal fee, Minimal amount of money for the buffet. It was great. But we don't have those buffets anymore. And even if we did, it would be like having 7 or 8 of the chafing dishes without their plates. And you know you're there. You know you want the options. You know you want more, but they're just not available, right? So there's that in the air, but there's also a sense of wanting more because this is how Venus and Mars squaring Jupiter would work. You know you want more. What's on the bone, right? Is there any meat left on the bone? So that's a tricky square. Now, if you were part of the underclass of society and you were working out this square, you would get your shit by any means necessary, right? But most of you aren't. So now you got to figure out, well, is this thing that I want really worthwhile? Do I really need it? Is it really important? And if it is, then what do I need to do to go get it? And these are fixed energies. So if you're on a course and you want something and you work hard enough and you talk somebody else into it with Venus and Leo, you can probably get what you want. But again, even today with the inconjunct with this kind of austere moon in Capricorn, is the price worth it? Is the price worth it? Very interesting dynamics today. We've got Mercury in Taurus coming up on Vesta. So here, I'm going to give you a little bit. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to give you a little investing advice. Since we're approaching Investa or Vesta, look for things with long-term value. This is the quick hit, right? Venus, Mars, square Jupiter. That is the quick hit. Mercury conjunct Vesta, trining the moon, long-term value. Look for long-term value today. Whatever that long-term value is, invest in that long-term value. It will pay off. Pluto getting closer into trine with Pluto, which is also very good for investments. And they're out there. You can find them. Believe it or not, you can find them. Mercury sextile Neptune. That's a really interesting sextile because we're dealing with such material, gross material with Taurus, but the sextile to Neptune gives it a different kind of slant, right? It gives it kind of a more intuitive, more psychic, more artistic, more creative feel if you can tap into it. So trust your instincts today. I think the instincts are pretty good, actually, right? I think they're pretty good, especially if you're aligned with something that's got kind of long-term value. So what else do we have? Yeah, and even the moon plays a role in here. So, yep, I would say be wary of the quick fix. And so today's a high emotional IQ day. Today's a 2 donut day versus a 1 donut day, if you know what I'm talking about. We also have another inconjunct, and it is Saturn with Mars. Again, to me, that's more about delayed gratification. Delayed gratification. I just keep coming back to this idea of not discarding things that are old and what you would consider to be unusable, right? There's some value. There's some value. So don't just don't consign quote unquote old things to the scrap heap. Work through it. See if there is some value there. And if there is some value, today's one of those days where oddly, I think you can nurture it. Okay. All right, let's get into the start of the day. It was pretty economical, wasn't it? So today's start of the day, I have to say, was, if I'd done the show yesterday, today's start of the day would have been yesterday's start of the day. Because there was nobody really interesting today. I know, it's weird. We're talking Gemini, probably one of the most interesting signs in the zodiac. And I had to go to yesterday. Who's our star of the day today? Laurie Anderson. Who is Laurie Anderson? Some of you may ask me, who the hell is that? Laurie Anderson, back in the 80s, came out of the performance art world. And she had a hit. She had kind of a major hit called Oh, Superman. And it was a very odd hit because, that's not where Laurie Anderson came from. She was, I think they even played O Superman on MTV. Laurie Anderson came out of the Brooklyn Academy of Music. And this is, she's in the kind of the Lamont Young, Philip Glass, John Cage world of kind of composition and to some degree performance art. And yet she transcends that. It becomes this very interesting kind of avant-garde pop icon. I actually saw her perform live one time in Milwaukee, and she was terrific. Her other hit was Language is a Virus. And one of the things that is really interesting about Laurie Anderson is she's got the Venus-Mars conjunction, right, in Taurus. And there are times when you look at Laurie Anderson, as in this picture, where she looks kind of like a dude, right? And there are other times when you'll see her and she looks really like a woman, and a very beautiful, sprite-like woman. I've never seen anybody shapeshift quite like Laurie Anderson in terms of her persona, right? And so she's a Gemini, true node in Gemini. And she really gets into things like speech and language. And this whole idea of language as a virus is a very Gemini kind of thought form. And she's got the sun on her ascendant. Now, this is a C-rated chart. So it's not an A, double A, but we're gonna say it's close enough for jazz, as I say. Uranus on the ascendant or close to the ascendant, the first house, gives her that avant-garde touch. She looks like a punk rocker, but she also is, again, somebody who comes from the Brooklyn Academy of Music. So she's got a classical side, or she plays violin. Really interesting person. Not an easy chart. I mean, this is somebody who I think had to fight through either a lot of stereotypes or just creative struggles in a lot of ways. Saturn, Pluto, the hard work of Saturn in Leo and Pluto conjunct in the second house, grinding. That's a grinder. That's the aspect of just grinding in that second house. I'm sorry, third house. And the grinding in the third house to find a voice, to have a voice. And when we get into this whole idea of language as a virus, we can look at the third house and Jupiter and Scorpio in the sixth squaring all of that, right? Scorpio is one of those, the eighth house and the 12th house are one of those houses that are like Pandora's box, right? Like you open up the contents of those houses and out come all the creepy crawlers. So I think she put in a lot of hard work and effort in order to get where she ultimately wound up, which was somebody who was pretty popular for a minute, right? And then we look at her fifth house, we have Neptune there, and people who have Neptune in the fifth house are creative people, right? That is the magic. I think Neptune placements of the fifth house can be really, really interesting and good. And we see this Neptune trine to the sun. So she's also able, again, we're going to assume that this is a close enough degree of her ascendant. She's able to channel Neptune through the ascendant and have, again, when you see Neptune on the ascendant with people, they can be very shapeshifty. So with Neptune trining her ascendant, she has some of those qualities. And more importantly, Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, right? And who was the love of Laurie Anderson's life? Lou Reed. And what was Lou Reed? Lou Reed is a Pisces, and we have Pisces up here in the 10th house. She's avant-garde. She has Aquarius on the midheaven, and she has that sudden kind of explosion into fame that somebody with Aquarius on the midheaven would have. And she's also quite intuitive. She has Pallas in Pisces, very, very intuitive. Now, what's interesting is that she has a Capricorn moon. Hello, we got the Capricorn moon today. And she got married later in life, her and Lou Reed. Lou Reed is such a weird guy because for a long time, it was like people thought he was queer. And then he kind of was maybe a little bit, and all of a sudden he's marrying Laurie Anderson, right? And they're living together in Long Island. But they both came to each other a little bit late in life, which you would expect with somebody with a Capricorn moon. And even Juno here in Sagittarius in the house of relationships, right? In a wide conjunction with the Capricorn moon, coming to that union and marriage later in life. So she's a really interesting person. And if you haven't discovered Laurie Anderson's music, I highly recommend it. Not everything about it is going to be your cup of tea. However, I will say this. If you find one of her concert performance videos, and I think there's one that might have been directed by Jim Jarmusch, check it out. You'll see the genius of Laurie Anderson and that kind of Uranian avant-garde, really interesting projection of self through the music and art. Laurie Anderson. Okay, there you go. We'll start the day. Hey, and it was a woman. All right, here we go. Come meet me over on 15 Minutes of Flame. We're gonna light the torches and let them fucking burn today. Right there. 9:11 a.m. Central Standard Time, 10:41 a.m. Central Standard Time. And that's today, tomorrow, and Thursday. We have a lot of fun over there. A lot of the habitants. What is going on over there? Cat climbing the wall of Chattaria. They're over here on 15 Minutes of Flame, right there. 15 Minutes of Flame. Now let's talk a little CBD and my sponsor of the show, my buddy Chris, over at True Hemp Science. And True Hemp Science has been an absolute godsend over the last couple of weeks here. And I've been giving my mother the sleep gummies at night, and they've been helping her get through the night. And it's not easy for somebody who can't relax and find a decent position to go to sleep. Well, the sleep gummies have definitely helped. So here's the deal. If you spend $100 or more here at this site, type in 15MINS, and you'll get free product. So you might get some gummies thrown in. You might get some tincture thrown in. I don't know if Chris has small samples of the salves, but no matter what, it'll be worth your while. And look, this is high quality CBD products. So you'll get to $100 by ordering 2 or 3 things. And if you order $150 more, you get free shipping. And the beautiful thing is that the products that you'll get, like this fine product, Hey 19, it'll last you a while, right? So if you get $100 worth of product, you'll have some, you could get 3 of one thing or 2 of one thing, and you won't have to go back and get an order for a while, because the nature of CBD is that it's a very economical addition to your daily supplements. And $150 more gives you free shipping. Always a money back guarantee within the 30-day window. All right, that's it. Thanks for being here. This has been the Astro Weather for the 6th of June, 2023. I'm Robert Phoenix. Come on over to 15 Minutes of Flame. We hope to see you there. Take care and have a great day.